Yeah, Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. Tonight we continue with a topic in the next line of our Mishnah, or really analyzing the one of the lines of our Mishnah, and we get into a very fun discussion, trying to break down a question of yes, please. Yeah, yes, close, close. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, Baruch Hashem, Avotu Banim, together, Baruch Hashem. So we started our Mishnah 2 weeks ago. The Mishnah gives us the times of Shacharit, Mincha, Arvit, and Musaf. And consistently, except for Arvit, we have a machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. Okay, so the Mishnah starts by telling us Tefilat HaShachar, the morning prayer, Ad Chatzot is until midday, which we spoke about means the time between sunrise and sunset. Ad chatzot, until midday. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ad arba shaot. Rabbi Yehuda says until 4 hours. Then we said Tefilat Mincha, ad ha'erev. Chachamim said that the prayer of Mincha is until the evening. Let's call it sunset. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ad plaga Mincha. Rabbi Yehuda again says earlier. Rabbi Yehuda is very delikuchik. His time for Shacharit is 2 hours early. His time for Arvit for Mincha is an hour and a quarter early. Tefilat Erev in La Keva, the Mishnah tells us Arvit, it doesn't have a set time. It's just simply whatever is in between the Mincha time and the Shacharit time. And then finally, Tefilat Musafin, Kol Hayom, Chachamim say all day long. Yehuda Omer ad Sheva Shaot until the 7th hour. So once again, Yehuda is consistently early with all of his times. Okay? The question we're going to deal with now is the word ad. What does the word ad mean? Yeah. Until. Okay? Now, when you're speaking about an endpoint, you need to define, you need to clarify, am I including that endpoint or I'm not including that endpoint? So when I say until 4 hours, does that mean until the start of the 4th hour? Or does that mean until the end of the 4th hour? Because Rabbi Yehuda tells us, Chachamim tell us until midday, ad chatzot. Chatzot is a pretty clear idea, it means chatzot. But Rabbi Yehuda is going to argue in all of these things, and he says ad arba shaot, until 4 hours. Does he mean until the start of the 4th hour? Or does he mean until the end of the 4th hour? By the way, if you speak with the older Persian people, they do this with how old they are, right? So how old are you? Like, so if you're, let's say, 30 years old, okay, today is your birthday, you turn 30, so you're 30. Tomorrow you're still 30. 6 months later, you're still 30. 11 months, right? 11 months later, you're still 30. But for some reason, the older Persian, they say today you're 30, no, now you're 31. Because you're in your 31st year. Because when someone is 6 months old, you don't say I'm 0, right? When someone is 6 months old, you don't say I'm 0, you say I'm 1. So when someone is 30 and 6 months old, you say you're 31. Okay, this is the logic, yes? No? Itai saying yes, but Mr. Akimian, you disagree? Machloket. Machloket. No, this is now, it's not that they don't understand, it's that it's just a...
It depends if it's a man or woman.
They're rounding down, I know. Some women round down more than 1 year, I know that. But anyway, but... What?
Either 6 hours, you're waiting.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's a matter of, you have to just define what your convention is. So that's what we're going to discuss tonight. And we're going to try to use the Mishnah itself to bootstrap and understand consistently. If the Mishnah means this, then that's what it means. But if the Mishnah means that, then that's what it means. The terms we'll use are inclusive and exclusive. Is it the 4th hour inclusive of the 4th hour? Or is it the 4th hour exclusive? I'm not including the 4th hour, meaning really the end of the 3rd hour. Okay? Are you ready? That's the backdrop. Let's go. Share screen. All right. To those who I didn't say hello to, hello. We're starting in Gemara, Masechet Berachot, Daf Chav Vav Amud Bet, 26B in the article. It's at the very, very, very bottom. It's 26B3. It's the paragraph that's on the right. It's the last 4 lines of the Gemara.
Yes. Rabbi, sorry. Is that the concept of the nafkamina we once spoke about? Or is it different than that?
No, that's not nafkamina. Nafkamina is something else. Nafkamina means is that if I have a machloket, and one person says yes, and one person says no, it's going to depend on your reasoning. If your reason is this way, so say yes. If your reasoning is no, you'll say that. But here it's just a matter of what does Rabbi Yehuda mean when he says ad arba shaot, until the end of the fourth hour? Does he mean until the start of the fourth hour, or does he mean until the end of the fourth hour? We're trying to clarify what he means by his terms. Okay, so it's not really a halachic ramification. It's just a matter of what does he mean when he uses the word ad, until? Is it ad included or ad excluding? Let's see it. Rabbi says until the fourth hour. So in the Gemara they ask the question. The dilemma was raised. Ad ve'ad bichlal. Does ad mean, and the ad is included? Ad means until. Ve'ad and the word and the ad itself bichlal is included, or ad ve'lo ad bichlal, or it's the ad is not included in the group. Bichlal means included. So by the way, this is something that's very, very common way of expressing something. When you want to know it's inclusive or not inclusive for the word ad ve'ad bichlal, ad and ad is in the group, bichlal is in the group, or ad ve'lo ad bichlal. Ad, but ad is not in the group. It's not included. It's ad ve'ad bichlal means including the fourth hour, or ad ve'lo ad bichlal, not including the fourth hour. Which one is it? Tashema, let's try to bring a proof from the end time of mincha. Because we know what the end time of shacharit is, ad chatzot, ad arba shaot. What's the end time of mincha? Ad ha'erev ve'ad plaga mincha. So let's see, based on that, Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad plaga mincha, until the half of mincha. So if you want to tell me it's not including, so then there's a difference between the two opinions, between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yochanan. Let me show you this graphic from Rabbi Stefanski. Okay? You see how this screen, I don't know if you could see that angle. You could see it. So you see on the screen, here we have the opinion of Arba Shaot in green. That's the end of Shacharit. Chatzot, you have it in red. That's the machloket of Shacharit. Now the machloket of Mincha. Chachamim say Ad ha'erev, which is this line that says Chashecha is sunset, Ad ha'erev, and Rabbi Yehuda says Ad plaga mincha, until plaga mincha, and we're saying plaga mincha is this point. So because there's two plags, there's the first half of mincha and the second half of mincha. Plaga mincha is this line. If you tell me it's until and including plaga mincha, so if it's including plaga mincha, when does that go until? It goes until here. Right? If you're going to include, if it's this and you're including it, so it goes until the end. Right? So if ad ve'ad bichlal, then when you say ad plaga mincha, so you want to include plaga mincha, which means you're going to go until the end of the day. And Chachamim say the end of the day. So if ad ve'ad bichlal, if ad plaga mincha means inclusive, you got a problem, because then there's no machloket by mincha. You get it? Okay, so let's read it. If you tell me it's not inclusive and it's just at the start of the point that he says, so then there's a difference between the opinions of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. But if you're going to tell me it's until and including plaga mincha, Rabbi Yehuda, Hainu Rabbanan, so they're the same opinion. Okay, and we just turn to Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph 27A. So again, what does ad include? So if you tell me that it's whatever time Rabbi Yehuda says, he's not including past that, so then for plaga mincha, where would he be? He would be over here. But if you're telling me he's going to include the next time also, so then you have to include all of this. And if you're going to include all of this, by telling me the end of mincha is plaga mincha, and you want to include that plaga mincha, which means until sunset, what does that mean? If that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, what's the opinion of Chachamim? Ad ha'erev, until the evening. Obviously, Ad ha'erev doesn't mean until the morning. So Ad ha'erev clearly means until the evening, without including the evening itself. So then they're the same opinion. So we're going to say that it has to be that it's Ad ve'lo Ad bichlal. Don't include this shaded area. It should be until, without including the time period that he says. Okay? Clear annotations. Good. Next. But now let's see what the Gemara says, but hold on a second. Elamai. Ad ve'lo ad bichlal. So now you're telling me ad is not including, because if it's including, you're gonna have a problem with mincha. But then I have a problem with musaf. Why? Ema seifa. Say the next line. What's the machloket by musaf? V'shel musafin kol hayom. Chachamim say all day long. Rabbi Yehuda omer ad sheva shaot. Rabbi Yehuda says until the 7th hour. So you guys tell me if the 7th hour is ad ve'ad bichlal, or the 7th hour is ad ve'lo ad bichlal. What would the zmanim be? Rabbi Yehuda says ad sheva shaot. Until the 7th hour is the end time of musaf. The word ad can be inclusive, meaning it includes the 7th hour, or it could be exclusive. It does not include that 7th hour. It's up until the 7th hour, the start of the 7th hour. Ad ve'ad bichlal, ad, and the ad is including, meaning including the 7th hour. Ad ve'lo ad bichlal means does not include the 7th hour. So if I tell you, right, you're with me? If the time of Musaf is the 7th hour, not including it, what does that mean?
It's
Chatzot.
6 hours. Yeah, chatzot.
That's okay. So how does 7th hour, not including the 7th hour, mean an after hour chatzot? What is the 7th hour, not including the 7th hour, mean? Said another way, the start of the 7th hour, which is chatzot, the end of the 6th hour.
It would be the start of the 7th hour, which would end at the start of the 8th hour. Yeah.
Right. So, but he doesn't.
Start could be the start of the 7th hour, which is like 1, and the end of the 7th hour is 2 o'clock.
Okay, very good. Now Rabbi Yehuda is saying the end of Musaf is 7th hour, until the 7th hour. He's not telling us, is it until the start of the 7th hour or until the end of the 7th hour? You know where this happens? I'll tell you when this happens. Sometimes someone asks, can you meet? Are you able to meet? Do you have a time to meet? Okay. And I'll tell him, yeah, I can meet between 1 and 4. Okay. Then one of the follow-up questions is, like, can we start the meeting at 4? Like when you tell me until 4, like, does that mean that's like including that as the start of the next thing? So I could really go until from start at 4 and go until 5? Or are you telling me I got to end by that time? Right? Is that the hard stop, or is that just like when I have to start the next thing? So when you say until the 7th hour, does that mean hard stop at the start of the 7th hour, meaning finish by midday, because now you're going to start the 7th hour, I got to leave? Or are you including that 7th hour, including it also for Musaf prayer? Okay? So once again, if you tell me that Musaf is 7th hour inclusive, what does that mean? That's the word that I need to hear. End. That's the word that I need to hear. Until the end of the 7th hour. And if I tell you Ad Sheva Shaot is not inclusive, it's exclusive, what does that mean? Until the end of the 6th hour, or said another way, to the beginning of the 7th hour. And ad ve'ad bichlal inclusive means the end of the hour. Ad ve'lo ad bichlal means the beginning of the hour, which is also the end of the 6th hour. Right? Good? I'm getting a little bit of a feeling like you guys aren't getting this. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so someone's got to say it. Who wants to volunteer? It's not a difficult concept.
I'll volunteer because I'm lost a little bit.
Okay. This is what happens when you don't come in person, Elon. You got to come
Yeah,
in person.
I'm driving. I'm late. I got stuck. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so you're driving. Okay, fine.
But-
Don't get pulled over. Go ahead.
Common logic just says when you say until something, you mean until that time. Period. You don't mean including that time. That's like why every time like the Chachamim say until Chatzot, we're not talking about whether they include Chatzot, don't include Chatzot, or until. Why specifically this time are we talking about including or not including?
Okay, so you're taking an opinion that ad is not including it, right? Because you're saying I work from 9 to 5 until 5. That doesn't mean until 6. That means until 5.
But why is that? Why does that have to be an opinion? Why should that be even discussed? When you're saying until something, when Chachamim say until Chatzot, are they including Chatzot or are they not including Chatzot? Why don't we ask that question?
Chatzot is a point in time. That's the difference. Is that Chatzot is a moment. Chatzot is midday. It doesn't have. It's not an interval. Okay. Whereas hours are intervals. Each hour is an hour. So if I tell you midday, I'm giving you a point, inclusive and not inclusive. It's a moment. It's midday. It's noon until noon. So it's 1 o'clock is not noon. But if I tell you until 1, the question is, is that including 1 p.m. or not? Now, I know in English, if I say until I work 9 to 5, that means I stop working at 5.
Right.
But
Exactly.
there could be situations where I say, we're going to invite, oh, here we go. Ilan, we're going to invite a party, and the party is going to be for singles from ages 18 to 24. Okay? What happens if the guy turned 24 last month? Do you still consider him 24?
Yeah, I do.
But he's past 24. He's 24 in a month.
Yeah, but he's not 25. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't say until not 25, until I said until 24. The
Yeah, I'm
answer
here.
is sometimes the word ad includes, and sometimes it doesn't, and it's ambiguous. And here we're trying to understand what Rabbi Yehuda has in mind. It's an ambiguous word. And by the way, in mathematics, there is these terms of including or excluding. If you want to include, if you have a range of something, if you do a square parentheses, it means I'm not going to include my endpoints. If you put a square bracket, if you do circle, it means I'm not including it. It's exclusive. If I put brackets, I'm including it. It's not a like an uncommon idea. Yes.
Well, because it's like a specified period of time, but we don't have to worry about this consideration. They just did that for 5 minutes.
Okay, so that's going to be the answer. Okay, that's not when we're asking the question, we don't think about it that way. So Andrew's already giving the answer, but when we say plag hamincha, what we're imagining is that there are two halves of mincha, right? Because what does plag hamincha? We said, I'm going to share a screen for this because I discovered that Rabbi Stefanski had another chart for this specifically. Here, not this one. Yeah, this one also, but get out of here. Sorry, excuse me. Here we go. So, no, not this one. It's this one. It's the same one. Sorry, excuse me. So you see in the yellow, there's Mincha Gedolah, and in the pink, there's Mincha Ketana. Last week, we asked the question of, when Rabbi Yehuda says Plag Mincha, Plag means half. Half of Mincha. Do you take half from Mincha Gedolah or half of Mincha Ketana? I'm going to use this as an opportunity. Rodney Nasimian made us the Excel spreadsheet that we made. He just added it to a sheet. I could actually share this in case you guys want to play around. So here, I'm going to just these are inputs. If sunrise is at 6 a.m., sunset is at 6 p.m., there's 2 times for mincha. Last week we spoke about this. There's mincha gedolah and mincha kitana. And Ilan, I think you asked the question of, why do we need to have 2 minchas? So here's why. I didn't get a chance to explain it last week. Because the mincha offering in the Beit HaMikdash was allowed to be brought starting from Mincha Gedolah. That was allowed to be brought starting from Mincha Gedolah. This was the start time for allowing it. However, normally Kohanim would not do it right away because the Mincha Gedolah, the Mincha offering was basically the last one of the day. So the issue is that if they would bring their Mincha Gedolah at 12:30, guess what? What do they call it? It's the final drink or something. It's like time. What is it? Last call. It's last call. If they, whatever time the Kohanim bring the Korban Mincha, the last call, there's no more offerings brought that day. So Mincha Gedolah is a time that the Kohanim are allowed to bring the Korban Mincha, but Mincha Ketana is a time that they actually bring it, typically. So Plaga Mincha, Andrew, to your point, Plaga Mincha means half of it. So we said, okay, do you mean half between Mincha Ketana and sunset, or half between Mincha Gedolah and sunset? If you meant Mincha Gedolah, halfway mark is 3:15. If you mean Mincha Ketana, halfway mark is 4:45. But the plag means a half. So when we're thinking about a half, we're thinking there's a first half and a second half. So when you tell me until the half Mincha, you're almost thinking, oh, it means the second half, inclusive of the second half. So it can't be inclusive, it has to be exclusive. That's what the first line of the Gemara is. Okay? The problem is now we're going back and now we're getting confused. But let's go back to the beginning of the discussion, give us a running start, and do it one more time. You ready? One more time. Very simply, I understand that maybe you think the word ad means something. But the question here is, when Rabbi Yehuda says until the 4th hour, does he mean until the start of the 4th hour? Or does he mean until the end of the 4th hour? If you put it in this clock, in this spreadsheet here, let's do it. Okay, I don't know how dynamic this is, Rodney. Let's try this. Shacharit, or let's just call it fourth hour. Okay, so what is the fourth hour? What's your formulas? Okay, this. We'll do the same thing. Okay, so this is 4 hours later. This is the end of the fourth hour. Oh, this is not gonna. No, right. That actually is not gonna work.
Not what you're about to do.
Yeah. No, I know. But it's actually not gonna work because it doesn't. Yeah, okay. It's a bit more complicated than this because we're just calling 4 hours 60-minute hours. Not with what I'm about to do. He's right. Okay, this would work. Okay, it worked. It worked for no. Okay, we'll talk about this later. But there's some nuances here. Okay, here we go. Is it the start of the fourth hour, which is the end of the third hour, which is 9 o'clock, if you're going from 6 to 6? Or is it the end of the fourth hour, which is 10 o'clock? That's what we want to know what the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda is. Very simple. The thing is, he's not there to answer our question. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to say, well, let's see how Rabbi Yehuda uses the word ad for later in the Mishnah. And maybe based on that, we could understand what the word ad means. That's what the Gemara is going to ask. Okay, let's do it one more time. I'm going back a little bit because I want to give us a running start to 26B. Let's do it one more time. Rabbi Yehuda says until the end of the fourth hour. I have a question. Is it until and including that fourth hour? Or maybe it's until and not including the fourth hour. We're not including it. It's really the end of the third hour. Let's go from the discussion that he says until for the end of mincha. He says until half of mincha. Okay, ad plaga mincha. So if you're going to tell me he's not going to include, is not including the part after it, so then you have a difference between Yehuda and Rabbanan. But if half of mincha, including that half, Rabbi Yehuda, Hainu Rabbanan, then they're the same opinion. Because if you look over here, if it's this half and including it, so that gets you all the way until the end, right? So this halfway mark, it's like 1/2, 2/2, and he says plaga mincha inclusive. Plaga mincha inclusive gets you until sunset, which is what the rabbi said. So I want to say it's not inclusive. I want to say it's exclusive. Until and not including plaga mincha. Therefore, I would say it's until and not including the fourth hour, meaning really until the end of the third hour. Don't include it. The Gemara says, but if you do that, I have a problem with Musaf. What's my problem with Musaf? Ela mai ad v'lo ad bichlal. So you don't want to include the fourth hour? You want to say until the start of the fourth hour, which means the end of the third hour? Ema seifa. But now let's do our, what does that mean for a Musaf? V'shel Musafin kol hayom. It says Musaf, Chachamim say all day long, Rabbi Yehuda omer ad sheva shaot. Rabbi Yehuda says Musaf until 7th hour. So if you're going to tell me it's until and not including, it means until the start of the 7th hour, which means midday. Well, what's the problem? Vitanya, we have a braita that talks about the following hypothetical case. Let's say it falls on in a situation that you have 2 prayers to pray at the same time. Achat shel Musaf ve'achat shel Mincha. You have the option of praying Musaf and Mincha at the same time. Which one comes first? So here we go. Mitpalel shel Mincha ve'achar kach shel Musaf. The answer is you have to pray Mincha before Musaf. Why? Shezo tedira v'zo ena tedira. Because Mincha is more common than Musaf. We have Mincha how many times a week? 7. We have Musaf how many times a week? 1, maybe. Yeah, always. But maybe more. Or how many Minchas do you have in a year of 365 days? 365 times. How many times do you have Musaf in a year of 365 days? 70?
60.
Yeah, for every Shabbat, for Chagim, Musaf, for Rosh Chodesh, 80, but not 365. So we have a concept. Tadir, v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. Everyone say tadir, v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. That means when something is frequent and something is not as frequent, tadir means frequent. She'eno tadir means not as frequent. Tadir kodem, the frequent one comes first. There's a lot of applications of this mitzvah. one example that's brought up is one thing that they say, although there's other reasons, is if you have to put talit and tefillin on, which one comes first? Based on this rule, explain to me which one should come first. Talit. Why talit? Shabbat and Yom Tov. On the days that we have Musaf, we don't have tefillin. So tadir v'she'eno tadir. You have one that's more frequent than others. Tadir kodem. Okay. Yeah. So there's other examples of this as well, but this is the rule. Tadir v'she'eno tadir tadir kodem. So what happens? I have a situation where mincha and Musaf is falling at the same time. Which one do I do first? Well, since mincha is more common, pray mincha first. Rabbi Yehuda argues and says, mitpalel shel musaf ve'achar kach shel mincha. Rabbi Yehuda argues and says, no, I say you should pray musaf first and then pray mincha. Why? Shezo overet v'zo ena overet. Here's why. Because the time of musaf is about to end, but the time of mincha is not about to end. Shezo overet means it's, how do they translate it? It will soon elapse because the time is ending. So Yehuda says, I don't want you to pray mincha first. You know why? Because if you pray mincha first, you might lose out on praying musaf. You need to pray musaf first. Why? Because the time is about to pass. Okay, so now let's think about this. Is Rabbi Yehuda in this case talking about the 7th hour, the start of the 7th hour, or the end of the 7th hour? Ad bichlal, including it, or ad velo ad bichlal, not including it. So you have to know the start time of mincha. The start time of mincha is 6.5 hours. So it's a half hour after the 6th hour. Okay, that's the time of mincha gedolah. That's what we said. So now you do the math or talk this through. If Rabbi Yehuda says 7th hour, not including the 7th hour, what is he really saying? The end of the 6th hour. And when does mincha start? 6.5. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, if Musaf 7th hour means the start of the 7th hour, you never have any overlap. Because by the time you get to midday, Musaf is done. And then half hour later, you can't pray for a half hour. And then half hour later, you start with mincha. So he's going to say, oh, you know what you should do? You should pray Musaf first because Musaf's going to pass. There's no more time of Musaf according to you. So the only way that this option even makes sense is if you're including the 7th hour. Now it makes sense. 7th hour inclusive, meaning until the end of the 7th hour, which means at 7th hour, and mincha starts at 6.5. You have that half hour window. So in that half hour window, Rabbi Yehuda says you got to pray Musaf first, because if you don't pray Musaf, you're going to lose it. The time is coming to an end. Whereas Chachamim say you go by what's more common. Why aren't Chachamim worried about you going to lose this?
Musaf never ends.
Because the time of Musaf is actually you get an extra 5.5 hours. Because he's saying until the 7th, or sorry, for extra 5 hours. He says until the end of the 7th hour, whereas Chachamim say Kol Hayom. So now Chachamim don't have an issue with it, but the only way this discussion of Mincha and Musaf overlapping makes sense, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is if it means the 7th hour, including the 7th hour. So, because of Plaga Mincha, we wanted to say it can't be including Plaga Mincha, because if it's including Plaga Mincha, that means nightfall. Then they're not arguing. Okay, but now from the Musaf thing, it can't be not including the 7th hour, because if you're not including the 7th hour, there's no overlap between the two. And I'm going to come back to this discussion of the overlap. But first, the Gemara spells it out. If you tell me until and including the end of this, until the end of the 7th hour, that's how you could have a situation when you have both. You have the option of praying both of those tefillot. That you could decide whether I should go this first or that first. But if you tell me until and not including, meaning Rabbi Yehuda says that you pray Musaf until the 7th hour, but not including the 7th hour, that which really means until the start of the 7th hour, it's not mincha time yet. How do you have a situation where you can be praying mincha and musaf at the same time? It's not musaf time. When it's musaf time, it's not mincha time. When it's mincha time, it's not musaf time. Once it's the start of mincha time, the time of musaf's already been over for a half hour. So elamai ad bichlal. So it must be inclusive. Okay, fine. So now, based on Musaf, you want to tell me ad means inclusive. But if that's inclusive, let's go back to our previous issue. What was our question by Plaga Mincha? If it's inclusive, what's the problem?
Then
It's
like
until
chatzot.
Shikiyah. It's until sunset. And so what? There's no argument. That's what the rabbi said. Until the evening, until the sunset point. So that's what the Gemara is going to ask. If that's what you want to say, Kashya Resha. So let's go back and to my first question. My Ika ben Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanan. So what's the difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan by the end of Mincha time? So the Gemara is going to give Andrew's answer. Mi savat dahai plaga mincha plaga achrona kamar. I want to say plaga mincha is inclusive, but why are you saying it's the second half, including the second half to get you to the end of the day? Plaga rishona kamar is talking about the first half. There's a first half and a second half, and I'm telling you until the first half, including the first half. So it's inclusive, but we're talking about the first half. He says half mincha. He's talking about that first half of mincha, inclusive of it. Plag rishona kamar v'hachi kamar, and this is what it means to say emat nafak plag rishona v'ayel plag achrona. At what point does the first plag inclusive end and the next plag begin? When it's 11 hours minus a quarter, meaning 10 3/4 hours. Remember this, going back to this chart, we did this math last time. This, if sunset is at 6, an hour and a quarter before the end of the day is 4:45. That's the halfway from Mincha Ketana to Mincha until sunset. So there's 2 half marks. Let me show you on this chart. Okay? So now what we're saying is everything is inclusive. Now let's have some fun. Do I have a highlighter? Highlight. Let's go with this yellow. So when Rabbi Yehuda says until the 4th hour, this is the entire 4th hour is included. And when Rabbi Yehuda says until the 7th hour for Musaf, you know what's included? This entire 7th hour is included. And when Rabbi Yehuda says until Plag HaMincha, what does he mean? This entire plag, this entire half, which is the first half, is included. So now you found a consistent way to tell me that Rabbi Yehuda, consistently in the Mishnah, when he uses the word ad 3 times, he means until and including that time period, all 3 times. Until the 4th hour, including it. Until the 7th hour, including it. And until Plag HaMincha, including it. But our question of if you're including Plag HaMincha, that means until sunset. No, it's until the end of that first Plag. Plag simply means half. It's that first half of Mincha, including it. So now you have Rabbi Yehuda is consistent until all 3. Okay? So this is the idea of ad ve'ad bichlal. You want someone next time let's think about how you could use Gemara language in your common day. Let's think about this. Someone's going to ask you a question and say, we could have a meeting until 4. You're going to say ad ve'ad bichlal or ad ve'lo ad bichlal. And the person is going to say, wow, Gemara Masechet Berachot, Daf Chavav, Daf Chaf Zayin. What's another thing? Give me another example. Try to use it in your language. Let's try.
My house at 3.
Yeah.
3:45 or 3?
3:45. No, you don't say 3:45. But okay, this is the idea of ad bichlal, until and including ad velo ad bichlal. Okay, good. You want to invite people to your party, and they're allowed to come until the age of 36. Until and including someone who's 36, or up until 36, which means if he's 36 in a day, you don't include him anymore. Okay, these are the type of ways of using the common language. Yes, go ahead.
It just feels like we're overcomplicating this. So anytime you say the middle, it's at the middle, and then you're calling it including everything before it. But if you give an actual hour, you're just including that hour. So like, why are we confusing this so much? It's middle is middle, and then if I say until 4 hours, give me that whole hour.
Okay.
So when you put a number to it, just include that number.
Okay. Very.
The same thing. Plot is like chatzot.
Very good.
Point. It's not an hour.
That-
That's
okay.
time frame. An hour is an entire hour. Plot is the point, but chatzot is a.
Very good. This is something I alluded to when I said at chatzot. It doesn't mean into including that second whole half of the day.
You didn't explain Chasot right now, you want to follow the whole first half of your time.
Exactly. So there are certain things that are a point in time, and there are certain things that are intervals. Okay. So when you say until midday, that's a point. But when you say the fourth hour, hour by definition is an interval. It's not a point in time. You need to explain until the start of the fourth hour or the end of the fourth hour. So it's ambiguous. When it comes to the fourth hour, it's ambiguous. Seventh hour is ambiguous. Plaga Mincha is not really ambiguous if you view Plaga Mincha as the midpoint between Mincha Ketanan and sunset, right? So if you're viewing it as a midpoint, the same way how Chatzot is midpoint between sunrise and sunset, Plag is a midpoint between Mincha Ketana and sunset. If you view it that way, then it's not really an issue. But what the Gemara is doing here is that it's trying to show some consistency within the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda across different times. Granted, this answer, what you're saying is simple, is simpler. It's simpler to just say, Plag HaMincha is a point in time. But the Gemara is trying to show that if you say that, Rabbi Yehuda is changing his meaning of the word ad in the same Mishnah. Until the fourth hour, which is until inclusive. Until the seventh hour, until inclusive. Until that point in time. Well, okay, yeah, it makes sense in context of the time that you're using, but now the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, he's using the word ad differently in the same, which is something that we do in language. You'll use the same word and it'll mean two different things in two sentences. But the Gemara wants to say, look, I could even explain it to you by saying that Rabbi Yehuda is drumming the same beat the entire time by saying until and including, until and including, until and including, all the way through. I could say that. And Chachamim are the opposite. Until midday, ad chatzot, until that point in time. Ad erev, until that point in time. It's almost as though you've created two, like a meta machloket. You have a machloket between the times, and you have a machloket in how they're using the word ad within the Mishnah. But in order to do that, we want to have Rabbi Yehuda consistent. Do you need to do that? No, but you can. And the Gemara can give your answer, but it could also do this answer as well. It doesn't need to resort to that answer, which even might be easier to say. It doesn't need to resort to that. Okay, good? Good. What time is the shiur over? Until including? Like, do we include the 45 minutes? Do we really end at 9:45 and 59 seconds? Machloket between no, actually, based on what we proved in our Mishnah, it really means 9:45, including. So okay, fine. All right, let's go. I'll use my extra 59 seconds. Let's go back to the Gemara.
Yeah, I would just say like the language wise, it would be like ad sha'a haravi'i instead of ad dalit sha'ot. No, like what are the?
Yeah. Okay, so very good. So you're saying once you see how the Gemara concludes, you think actually that's consistent with that. That makes sense. Until 4 hours means until and including 4 hours. Whereas if you want to say ad sha'a haravi'it until the fourth hour, the implication would be the beginning of the fourth hour. Very nice. It's a nice proof for what the Gemara wants to conclude. Yeah.
Going down the line, and like Rabbi Yehuda is like speak about anything with times, and he says ad, just taking it as
Ad ve'ad bechla. Yes.
What Gemara we're talking about.
Not necessarily, but you have a very good question. This type of question that Cody, the train of thought you're going, is a type of question that Tosfot asks. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I put out a video recording, and whoever didn't see it, I could put it again. It's like a 10-minute video recording about what the job, the overall role of Rashi and Tosfot are when we learn Rashi and Tosfot on the daf. Rashi is what I call vertical. He's helping you to go line by line to understand what the lines are, where with the flow of the Gemara is. Whereas Tosfot is a lot more horizontal in the sense that he's comparing this Gemara to that Gemara over there, to that Gemara over there. So much so that my ninth grade Rabbi Yismach, the way he would like to say it, is that if you know all of Shas, you know all of the Gemarot, then all of Tosfot's questions would just be obvious to you. When Tosfot says, it says it's over here, but over there it says that, over there it says that, over there it says that, his questions are simply finding inconsistencies between Gemara. So the way you're thinking is exactly the type of question Tosfot would ask, where you're saying, okay, Rabbi Yehuda is using this word ad, and he means until and including. What would be great is if you know that Rabbi Yehuda said the word ad somewhere else, some other context, in some other Gemara, some other Mishnah. And when he uses the word ad there, is he consistent? And does he mean until and including there or not? And then if it says until and including, what's called leshitato, it's consistent. If not, that's a question for Tosfot. And but right now, no, we don't have that issue here. Okay, now I have a question for you. Mincha or Musaf? What do you do first? Okay, why do you do Mincha first? Tadir, v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. Okay, now, has this ever happened to you that you could be praying Mincha and Musaf at the same time? Has it ever happened? It's happened to you. What happened?
Had to run up to help them with something, and then when I come back down, it was like, look, the thought came, and I missed him soft. I didn't know, I mean, I knew it's moved, but I asked the rabbi,
What should you do?
this, and he said, since you'll be praying Mincha when you're in 20 minutes, just pray yourself now. And
Okay.
pray Mincha with us.
Unbelievable. Okay, beautiful answer. So here's the situation, because you actually said Musaf first, right? You didn't say Mincha first. So this is actually a big discussion, and I think, hold on a second. I want to tell you a story that I had. I learned this Gemara, I think, I don't know, 9th grade. And that year, I was praying somewhere. I'm not going to say where. I was praying somewhere on Simchat Torah. And on Simchat Torah, they had everybody come to Udasher Amar. I'm pretty sure some people did it twice. They went up and then Udasher Amar, Baruch Mivanim Asher. Yehi Ritu Echav Eduyot. Udasher Amar, Udasher Amar. So what happened? We didn't pray Musaf until it became 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. All of a sudden, I remember looking at my watch. I saw it was 2 o'clock. They didn't do Musaf yet. It's the time of Mincha. What are you supposed to do? It's the time of Mincha. We didn't pray Musaf. Well, Tadir, v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. If there's one that's more common than others, Mincha is more common. On Simchat Torah, I got up there to all of the people, the Ulasher Amar people, and I was going to say, we have to pray Mincha first. We have to do Minyan for Mincha. After Mincha, we'll do Minyan for Musaf. Right? Now the thing is though, is that that's not, the Tosfot tells us that that's not the halacha, and Shulchan Aruch holds this way, where he says that if you're in the Bet Knesset, and as part of the flow, you're doing shacharit and you're doing musaf. It's just that it came out late. And I believe Tosfot gives us the example of Rosh Hashanah, where musaf is very long. You have Tekiyat Shofar, and it's possible. It's possible that something actually no, that's the end of musaf time. It's possible they're in the Bet Knesset for a very long time. It could happen on Yom Kippur. You have a lot going on in the morning. You do a lot of this. You do a lot of also musifin. They do Titaru a lot of times in the morning. You do a Vidu HaGadol of Rabbi Nassim. It's possible that your Mincha time and Musaf will overlap. When you're in the Bet Knesset, Shulchan Aruch tells us you do Musaf first. But when are we talking about? We're talking about if you're on your own. What happened? You pray Shacharit, and then you stopped. Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. You're praying Shacharit, everything is good, and then since you're tzaddik, your beep, 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 your Hatzalah thing goes off. We just saw it happening in action. So what happens? Musaf time, guy's gone. The guy is now going to spend the next 4 hours in the Bikur Cholim room of the hospital. Okay? Now he comes back after a whole long day. He's taking care of someone. He's saving lives. He comes back home. He looks at his watch. It's Musaf time. It's Mincha time. And I'm on my own right now. Okay? Or you know what? Make it even better. Let's say he can't make it back. Let's say he's got to be there. So now he's not going to have a minyan for Mincha. He's not going to have a minyan for Musaf. It's just him and his Sidur. What does he do? Tadir v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. You pray Mincha first. But when you're going with the flow of the Bet Knesset, you don't mess up with the flow. So in my 9th grade, 14-year-old self, when on Simchat Torah, where I said we should change the order, I was wrong. You should do the order of Musaf. Even if you're late, you do Musaf first. But if you're on your own, for whatever reason, there's no minyan somewhere, you're praying Mincha and Musaf together at the same time, you don't know which one to do, there's no minyan, you do Mincha first. Or even if there is a minyan, you have a minyan for Mincha, you pray Mincha first. If you miss Musaf, you pray Mincha first, and then you pray Musaf afterwards. Why? Tadir, v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. You have one that's more common than the other, the common one comes first. Darren's case was this good example that they still had minyan, right? That's what you were saying. And you're gonna pray 20 minutes later. Oh, you were praying on your own at that moment?
I missed the minyan.
You missed it.
Praying 20 minutes after one, the car.
So should he hold out his Musaf for another 20 minutes?
Okay.
And he's not able to make a minyan.
So he just told you to just pray now. Was it already the time of mincha? I guess what he's saying, which makes sense, is like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna pray mincha now, but you're gonna miss minyan in 20 minutes. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna wait? Don't wait. Who knows what's gonna happen? There's gonna be some other kid that goes beats up someone. You have to go help this other kid who's locked in the bathroom. Okay, so you know what? Just pray your musaf. Okay, I see why in some situations where you gotta say like now's your chance. You have this window. Don't mess around because if you're gonna pray mincha now, you're gonna miss musaf later. You're gonna miss minyan. I guess there's situations in which you might, but you know what? If not now, when? Rama, let's do it. Let's look up Shulchan Aruch together. Okay, let's look up this rule. Someone help me find the halacha. Bet. Is it here? Oh, it's gonna come up later. Coming up on the next stuff. So let me find it over there. I probably shouldn't do this on the fly, but it's okay. Where is it? Where is it? It's here. Here, halacha mitpalel shel mincha v'achar mitpalel shel musaf. That's where it is. Shel musafin kol hayom. Halacha. Mutar. There we go. Is it this vav? Is this vav? Look, I think it was Siman. Honestly, I'm going off memory right now. I think it was Siman Resh Pe Vav. I think it's Siman Resh Pe Vav because that's Hilchot Shabbat, and in Hilchot Shabbat is where this comes up. Let's see. If it's Siman Resh Pe Vav, we'll do it. If not, I guess we don't have a choice, right? Sefaria. Hey, all the way from Queens, New York. Here we go. Halacha. Resh Pe Vav. I'm going with Resh Pe Vav. Siman Orach Chaim. Siman Resh Pe Vav is 286. This is it. Here we go. Oh, okay, Seif 4. Here we go. So it's Siman Resh Pe Vav Seif Daled. The halacha says as follows. Here we go. Hayu lefanav shetei tefilot, achat shel mincha ve'achat shel musafim. If a person can pray one of two prayers, musaf and mincha, what should you do? Kegon, for example, she'icher min itpalat tefilat musaf at 6 shaot. Until he did not pray mincha until the 6th hour umechza, the Tur Az, and a half, which means you've now entered the time of mincha. 6.5 hours into the day, you've entered mincha zone. I did not pray mincha yet. Why? Either because they're selling flowers in the Gabaim are Baruch Hashem, they're milking the crowd that day. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe they're doing Ulashir Amar. Maybe there's a lot of this. Maybe you have a teen minyan that started at 11 o'clock. Maybe whatever it is. It came until the time of mincha and you didn't pray Musaf yet. What happened? Shaot Zmaniot mincha. Sarich litpalel shel mincha techila ve'achar kach shel musaf. He has to pray mincha first and then musaf. Why? Tadir v'she'eno tadir kodem. Something that's more frequent than others, the more frequent comes first. Okay? Haga umihu imiktim shel musaf yatsa. The Ramah says, okay, but if you did musaf first, that doesn't mean your musaf was no good. It's fine. You did musaf first, it's okay. Mana here. V'yesh omrim. Dahainu davka shetzarich ata leitpalel shtehen. That's only if you need to pray both of them now. For example, it's time for him to pray, and he doesn't want to pray until he prays mincha. There are certain times where we're actually not going to get into this, but there are certain things that once you enter times of mincha, you're not allowed to have a sit down to have a meal. So he wants to have his meal. In order to have his meal, he needs to pray mincha. So he's got to pray mincha now. Do you pray mincha first or musaf first? Answer is mincha. But if he doesn't have to pray mincha now, yachol la'aktim shel musaf. As you said, you don't need to pray mincha now. You're going to pray mincha in 20 minutes from now when there's minyan. I'm not forced to pray mincha now, so you can pray musaf now. This is what your rabbi told you. Haga umiu. Okay, fine. V'yesh mi shehoreh. Okay, and here we go. Last thing Shulchan Aruch says, "V'yesh mi shehoreh she'en osin ken b'tzibur." We don't do this in a minyan. La'aktim tefilat mincha le'tefilat musaf kedei shelo yit'u. You don't have a minyan of musaf of a mincha and then musaf afterwards. You don't do that. Kedei shelo yit'u, because they're going to get confused. All of a sudden, this minyan, you're doing mincha, then you're doing musaf afterwards. This is what you say, gij mishan. They're not going to know what on earth is going on. So they say, you know what? Don't do this. If it's you understand what's going on. If you're smart enough and intelligent enough to ask the question, then here's the answer. Pray mincha first. But if you're not smart enough and intelligent enough to ask this question, don't start doing a balagan. Then from now on, they're going to start having late musaf arvi minyan. They're going to have musaf after mincha. You're going to come up with something new. You know, like sometimes they do slichot at 6:30 in the afternoon. They have the 6:30 minyan. Musaf minyan at 6:30. From now on, all of the people who have kaddish are going to be so happy. Because they tell the Eliyahu also, you don't miss anything. You don't miss any kaddish. Don't go to shacharit. You don't miss any kaddish. You can start with Rabbi Chanina before. You do this, then you do musaf, do Tana Eliyahu, and then go into arvit. It's amazing. You can literally do your entire Shabbat kaddish in a matter of 1 hour. Okay. I'm only kidding. But this is what the Shulchan Aruch says. You don't mess around. So in a minyan, you don't do this. In Bet Knesset, you don't do this. Okay, it's very interesting discussion. It's very important for Gabaim to know that you should keep your eye on the clock to try to do Musaf before Mincha time. You should always, if you see that it's getting late, you want to do this first. However, if it slips into the Mincha time, it's not such a big deal when you're with the minyan. Yes?
So like, why is it so strict about slipping into the beginning of the mincha time, whereas like wherever you go, there'll be like for sure minyanim like later in the day. Like why is it like, oh, you have to pray mincha now because the time mincha, but like what mincha like go at 7:50.
Right.
We have a minyan, like why do I have to like, oh, let me just say mincha now?
Right. So that was the logic of Rabbi Yehuda. He said, do Musaf first because the time of Musaf is going to end. But according to Chachamim, the end time of Mincha and Musaf is the same. So you're not in any more of a rush to pray Musaf than you are to pray Mincha. So if you have all day to pray Mincha, you also have all day to pray Musaf. Which one comes first? It's not about which, the end time, I have all day. You have all day to do both. The answer is you go by the one that's more common. This is one of the rules that we have. Tadir v'sheino tadir. So even though you're not in a rush, it's not about a rush. It's a matter of what's proper. Which one should I do first? Yes. Right. I guess that's similar to what Cody is saying. So again, with a minyan, if you have a minyan, this is less of a question. I think this should be branded as the Hatzalah question. Tony, has this happened before? You leave after Shacharit?
Every cloud they send out like some halacha. Here's what you do if you miss shofar, if you miss Musaf, if you miss it.
Okay. So Rosh Hashanah could be a very good example because your Musaf of Rosh Hashanah is like a half hour long, and maybe there's a situation all of a sudden Musaf Rosh Hashanah you leave, and there is no other minyan, and whatever the situation is, I could go to a minyan, but like, should I go to that minyan and while everyone is slipping out to do tashlich, maybe I should slip out to do my musaf. Maybe that's the order it should be. So it's just a matter of what's proper. It's a good point that you're not as much of a rush because you have a minyan later. But when you're alone, you want to know what's the order. Yeah. Oh, you're bringing me back to Masechet Rosh Hashanah. We had this discussion that came up in Masechet Rosh Hashanah once. Oh, okay. So Richard's question is: right now we're talking about tefillah, musaf, and mincha. What about korbanot? So there's this whole thing about wow, it's Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. There's this whole thing in Masechet Rosh Hashanah that what they said happened one year was. Okay, if you let me down this rabbit hole, this is going to be the end of tonight's shiur. We're going back to Masechet Rosh Hashanah. I'll try to do it as quickly as I can. But essentially, Rosh Chodesh could be on one of 2 days, depending on when they see the moon. So for Rosh Hashanah, it could be a one of 2 days, depending on whether you see the moon on the night of the 30th of the month or the night of the 31st of the prior month. Okay, whatever. It's a lot. But now what happened one time is that you need witnesses to come. So they waited, but the witnesses came at the last 2 hours of the day. So what had happened is they already brought the Korban Musa, the Korban Mincha, because they didn't think it was Rosh Hashanah. They already brought the Korban Mincha, and now you have witnesses come and say it was this, and now they wanted to bring the Korban Musaf, but as I mentioned, when you do Korban Mincha, it's the last call. It's your last chance to do anything. The Beit HaMikdash was closed. They ended up missing it, so because of that, they made a takana. The takana is, from now on, they do not accept witnesses of Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah after the time of Mincha. From the time of Mincha, we don't want to hear it, because we're bringing the Korban Mincha, and if you have something to say, too bad. We're locked, we've closed the doors, because we don't want you to tell us that today was Rosh Hashanah, because it's too late. So there was a situation in the Gemara brought that Kalkelush Leviim Bashir and things got messed up. But once you do Mincha, you can't do Musaf when it comes to Korbanot. That's the interesting here. Once you do the prayer, the Korban of Mincha, you're not allowed to do anything else. The day is done. So you don't have a concept of Tadir v'She'eno Tadir in the sense that if you do the Mincha first, it's closed off. For tefillot, you have these 2 tefillot, and it doesn't hurt you by doing one first. I never thought about that. It's so interesting. With Korbanot, it's different because counteracting against your Tadir v'She'enu Tadir rule, you have another rule that tells you Mincha is the last one of the day. So you can't go against that. And once you bring Mincha, it's the last one of the day. So if you bring Mincha first, guess what? There's no Musaf. And then it's going to be over, then you're going to lose the Musaf, so you have to do Musaf first. Excellent idea. Yeah. It's a good question. So they're not really different in the sense that the way we have it established is that we pray Musaf first. We don't want to leave Musaf until the end so that Mincha comes first. We don't want to do that. But if there is an overlap, we have this principle of Tadir v'She'eno Tadir, and that's the overriding principle. By Korbanot, that principle works, but you have another principle that's offsetting it, the fact that if you don't do Musaf now, you're not going to get a chance to do Musaf. But for Tefillah, you will. So Tadir v'She'eno Tadir is a rule. It's like hierarchical rules here. It's a nice idea that honestly I've never seen written anywhere. But as we're talking about it, I'm like thinking it through. I would love to see if this is discussed. So interesting. Very good. But yeah, it's like you have these rules that are counteracting. Yeah.
Versus bringing Musaf, or bringing your Korban Chagiga versus bringing a Musaf.
Okay, so they're very different. Korban Musaf is a communal offering that they handle there, and they do that right away. They bring the Korban of Shacharit, they bring the Korban Musaf, then they open it up to any Joe, Shmo, Yosef, Mosef, whoever wants to come in and brings their Korbanot, and then they end up by doing the communal Korban Mincha. But the Musaf is in the hands of the Kohanim. These Kohanim, you think you could slow him down? I guarantee you he's done with your Musaf before you wake up. This guy, they're done with it. The way the Kohanim were is they would open up, do this Korban, do that Korban, and it's like, hi, I wanted to see you guys do Musaf. He's come back tomorrow. Sorry, you missed it. They do it very early, and then they leave the time for others to bring the offering. But once they do Mincha, closed. Come back tomorrow. It's closed off. They don't let anyone do anything else. Okay, let's go. Yeah.
So, sorry, just on that, how you assume right now, so let's say it's 1:20, beginning of the time with 1 o'clock. There's sorry, it's 1:15 right now, right? Minyan is at 1:32. I didn't do Musaf.
Yeah, that was like similar to Darren's question. And I think what we're saying now is that since you're going to go to Minyan, you can do it. You could do Musaf now. You don't have to interrupt with your Musaf prayer because you're not praying Mincha now anyway. The question is like, okay, right now, I'm taking my 3 steps back. I'm going to take 3 steps forward. Am I bowing with mincha in mind, or am I bowing with musaf in mind? Like that's sort of the question. We say do mincha, but in this type of a situation where you're like, my 3 steps back, 3 steps forward. Right now, I'm doing musaf, mincha. I have a set time established right before I go eat the borekas and egg salad. Like I'm going later to mincha minyan. I'm not doing mincha now, so now's your time for musaf. Then it's okay, is what we're saying. Okay. Let's see how much more time we have. Okay, back to the Gemara. We're gonna bring a proof. Don't you love whatchamacallit, tangents? We wanted to know, was Rabbi Yehuda until and including, or until and not including? In order to understand what he meant by shacharit, we said let's understand what he says by musaf, but by mincha. So, we had an answer there, but then we said, but let's see what it says by musaf. And in order to understand what he said musaf, we had to go into the discussion of what happens if there's an overlap between mincha and musaf, and based on that case, we know that according to Bidan, there is an overlap. So we know when he says until the 7th hour, he means until and including the 7th hour. So that means he means until and including the 4th hour. So we have to understand what does it mean by plag mincha. So we're saying it means until and including the first plag, which means until the halfway mark of mincha of plag. And the Gemara then says, here we go. Oh wow. Okay, I have some explaining to do. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says, Af anan nami tanina. By the way, the fact that it's until and including is in another Mishnah. Explicit. Which Mishnah is that? Get ready for even more tangents. Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba he'it chamisha devarim. Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba came and he testified about 5 matters. This needs a little bit of context. Let me explain. There is a Masechet in Mishnayot. It's called Masechet Eduyot. Eduyot means what? Testimonies. Testimonies. What? Edim. Yes, from the words of testimonies. Not witnesses, but testimonies. And things that they're testifying about. What happened was, there was one day in the Beit Midrash, up until we're going to learn this coming up, that the Beit HaMidrash was very exclusive. It was like ad velo ad bichlal, very exclusive. They wouldn't let people in. It was only the creme de la creme, very smart students. They didn't let the C students, the B students come in. It was only the AA plus students. Then what happened was there was a change of guards. There was a new administration, and he allowed everyone in. He opened up the doors. He said, let the B's, the C's, the F's, everybody come in. Now, because of that happening, there was a lot of additional excitement. And on that day, Bo Bayom, there was a lot of more people that could contribute to the conversations. And what happened was, and they said, if anyone has any testimony of what a halacha is, let's say there's a machloket, but you have an idea of what the halacha is in that case, come forward, right? Like, if there's anything that you know, that you had a story that one time you asked your rabbi and your rabbi did this, or you saw your rabbi do this, or there was a discussion and it wasn't unclear, and you know that this is what the rule is, come forward and give your testimony. We want to document all of the discussions. That became Masechet Eduyot. Now, what subject was this about? Whatever was on people's minds. It was the most random discussions ever. So right now we're going to have Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba's turn. He's going to say, I got 5. I want to talk about 5 things. I'm going to testify about 5 things, about completely different topics, and you're going to have to follow me. And you're going to have to understand what I'm talking about. So it's a little bit complicated. Let me just tell you that number 5 on the list is going to be about the 4th hour, and about Rabbi Yehuda, okay? But let's go through the 5. We'll try to do it quickly, okay?
Or is this random stuff?
Random stuff. That Rabbi Yehuda ben says. So if you don't understand it, it's okay. But it just should give you some inspiration to learn Masechet Eduyot one day. Because if you learn Masechet Eduyot, you're going to learn like the most random factoids from all over Shas. Here,
Maybe it's not factually accurate.
maybe, but Rabbi Yehuda ben was not a failing one. He was a tremendous Talmid Chacham. Here we go. Rabbi Yehuda ben He'it chamisha devarim. He testified about 5 things. Number 1, Shemima'anin et hakitana. We tell the younger girl to refuse her husband. Next. That's the first rule. So I have to explain what this concept is. Are you ready? Guys, I need you to focus here. It's a little bit complicated. There's a concept called miyun. Here's how it works. According to the Torah law, a father is allowed to marry off his minor daughter, which means if someone comes chas tegari for your daughter, and your daughter is 8 years old, 9 years old, the Torah gives the father the right to give his daughter's hand in marriage to the husband. The Torah gives the right for the husband, for the father, to see to it that his daughter marries into a good family, and if the opportunity is now while she's still under 12 years old, he has the authority. Now, stage 2. What happens, Sheloneda, if she's orphan? She doesn't have a father. So someone comes after her to ask for a hand in marriage. She's a minor. She can't decide. So the rabbis, rabbinically, gave authority to her brothers and her mother to be able to marry her off. According to Torah law, it's just her father who has the authority. According to rabbinical law, if she's orphaned from her father, then the mom can do it, or the brothers can do it. Okay? But since it's only rabbinic, she has the option to reject, which means the brother or the mother can say, you're going to marry this person, and then 3 years later, as long as she's before the age of 12, she could say, I don't like this guy. This guy's a creep. Thank you, mom. I'm on my own, and she's allowed to reject it. And guess what? She does not need a divorce document. She does not need a get. She could just walk away.
Nullified.
Why can it be nullified? Because biblically, the mom or the brothers didn't have the authority to give her hand in marriage. So since it was only a rabbinic marriage, the rabbis say, rabbinically, you could just annul it without doing a divorce document. Okay, that's stage 2. That's stage 3. 2 brothers are marrying 2 sisters. I know it's complex, but we could do this. 2 brothers, Reuven and Shimon, are marrying 2 sisters, Leah and Rachel. Okay? What happens? Rachel is the younger one. She's a minor. Her dad is dead. So she is going to get married as a minor because her mom is giving her hand, which means she's only married rabbinically. You have 2 brothers, Reuven and Shimon, marrying Leah, who is the elder. They get, meaning she's not a minor, she's an adult. They get married, real marriage from the Torah. The younger sister has only a biblical marriage because she's only 10 years old, and her mom says marry Shimon. So they get married. Okay. Now here's what happens. Reuven dies. Now we're getting into the crosshairs of a mitzvah of Yibum. Yibum says that when someone's brother dies, that he should, childless, and that Reuven dies childless, the brother should marry the widow. But you can't marry your wife's sister. Okay? So here's the catch-22. He has a one mitzvah of Yibum to marry his dead brother Reuven, to marry his widow. Because that was a biblical marriage, so he has a biblical obligation to marry Leah. But rabbinically, he's married to Rachel. And because of this, you can't be married to both. But biblically, he's not even married to Rachel. So he's obligated to marry Leah. What should he do? So Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba says, here is what they did. And I have a testimony of what they did. They went to that younger girl and they told her, refuse the marriage. Because she's the only one that has the option to refuse. That's called the concept of mi'un. To refuse a rabbinic marriage before she becomes an adult. So shemima'anin et haketana means what they did was they told the younger girl, refuse the marriage, you release Shimon. Shimon is now allowed to marry Leah. Because if they didn't do that, she stays on to this marriage. Now she's rabbinically married he's rabbinically married to Leah, which means he's not allowed to marry both Leah and Rachel. Sorry, he's rabbinically married to Rachel. He can't marry both of them, but now he's going against his Torah obligation. So they said, tell the younger girl to refuse the marriage. She's 10 years old. She could fall in love again. It's okay. She has her whole life in front of her. And then you're able to do the mitzvah yibum. Okay, I could take questions, but we're only going to get to number 1 of Rabbi Yehuda.
Yes, our post, you can do the chalitza.
Okay, so very good. He could potentially do the chalitza. I guess we were talking about a situation in which he wants to do the mitzvah of yibum. And the Torah wants you to do yibum. And the Torah almost as though has a negative view to someone who doesn't do the yibum. Here, the first girl, she's widowed. there is only one brother. This one brother wants to marry her, but he has a technical issue. So this is what they did. Could he have said no? He could have said no. He could have done chalitza from the Torah. But why? Why? She wants it.
Why is he forced to this situation and not that situation?
Because this
If he's
situation,
forced into a
the
chalitza,
mitzvah, because the mitzvah of Yibum is from the Torah. The Torah wants us to do that. His dead brother died Shabbos.
definitive, you have to do it when it gives you an out of food.
Okay, it's a good question. It's a nice the discussion about whether it's preferred to do Yibum or Chalitza. It's actually a machloket Tanaim, it's a machloket Amoraim, and it's a machloket in Shulchan Aruch. According to Shulchan Aruch, you should do Yibum, and according to the Ramah, they wouldn't do it. But just from the basic read of the Torah, it's very clear that the Torah wants us to do Yibum. What is the Torah? Yeah, we're getting very far off into this discussion, but if, from the basic read of the text, it's looked down upon. Yeah, it says how this guy has to go in front of everyone and say, "I refuse to do the mitzvah," and she goes and she says, "This guy refuses to have a child, to have a child with me, to go for his dead brother. He doesn't care about his dead brother." So it's viewed as a negative way. I have to get through these 5. Okay, so we're doing ad bichlal until the end of 9 o'clock inclusive, until the end of the 9th o'clock hour. But I just have to do this because we're in the middle of a flow. So the first one is Shemima'anin et Ketana. Okay, that's what Yehuda ben Baba testified. That's number 1. Number 2, V'shemasi'in et ha'isha al pi ed echad. Rule number 2 is as follows. I'm going to have to hold the questions. I'll do my best to explain it. Typically, in order to testify about something, you need to have 2 witnesses. If there has to be some sort of a testimony that someone died, you need to have 2 witnesses for that to hold water. What happens in a situation where there's a woman is married to a guy, and the guy is going swimming by the beach, and one person sees him get chomped up by a shark? Shalom Eda. There's only 1 witness. If you're going to require 2 witnesses, guess what? You're not going to find them, which means what? This woman is going to be stuck being married forever. Because she's married. She can't go remarry. How's she going to get remarried? She's not going to get a divorce document. There's no husband. She can't remarry because she's married. There's no witnesses. But let's say one person saw it. If you allow this one person to say, "I saw that Chichiak Ploni is dead," if one person can say that, you get to release this woman, and she's allowed to go marry someone else. So says the Mishnah, says Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba, "Shemesi'in et ha'isha al pi ed echad." Yes, you're allowed to take the testimony of one person about what happened to her husband, allowing her and permitting her to get married, as long as there's one person testifying that something happened to her husband. Rule number 3, there was a situation, very unfortunate situation, where there was a rooster that pecked a baby to death, and the baby had a very soft skull, and it pecked the baby. By the way, these they call them like cockfights. These roosters are crazy. They could really go very, very, and they pecked the baby, and it killed the baby. And what they did was that they killed the rooster. They stoned the rooster, which the Torah talks about. If an ox gores multiple times, you got to kill the ox. It doesn't say anything about the rooster. Yehuda says in Yerushalayim, they stoned the rooster. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4. Wine, once it's 40 days old, it's aged enough that it's sufficient that you could bring this on the mizbeach as a korban. They used to bring a yain every day for korbanot, and it has to be aged wine. It can't be like grape juice. It's got to be aged. What's the minimal amount? Yehuda ben Baba tells us 40 days. And number 5, with all the suspense about it, the tamid shel shachar, the korban of shacharit, shekarev be'arba shaot, that it was brought in the 4th hour. In that 4th hour, it was brought, not ad sha'ah haravi'it, the way Elon coined it, but it was brought in the 4th hour, and that's a testimony that they did it. And if they brought korbanot during that hour, it makes sense that that's what Rabbi Yehuda, when he says until the 4th hour, that he'd be including that time. Shema mina, so we learn from here, ad ve'ad bichlal, it's until and including. Shema mina, that is a nice conclusive proof. Okay, so I want to just recap this and say a word or two about Masechet Eduyot. Masechet Eduyot is excellent for someone who has ADD, because this Masechet is built for you. And you love it. And you're going to ask a million questions. You're going to have so much fun.
Let's do it next.
And once you start getting bored, boom, we're going to talk about some chicken that was killed. And you're like, chicken killed someone. And then I wonder, how old is my wine? And then like 2 wives and one of the brothers died. And one was younger, one was older. And then a korban was brought in the 4th hour. It's like, this is one person in one moment you're saying this. Masechet Eduyot is, it's powerful. How if you're going to learn Masechet Eduyot, for each one you need to unpack and learn so many topics. It's actually an excellent Masechet. But that's like our tangent of to feed our ADD. But
to it next.
Yeah, Rama, I think you love it. You love Masechet Eduyot. Yeah, but maybe you know what, we should do that. We should do that once. Bli neder, Be'ezrat Hashem. Just to get more options to have beef jerky, whatever we can do. But just more broadly, we started with this discussion of what's the Rabbi Yehuda says Ad Arba Shaot. What does he mean? Ad ve'ad bichlal, ad ve'lo ad bichlal. We brought a proof this way. We then brought a proof that way. We reinterpreted our Mishnah to make Rabbi Yehuda's statements of usage of the word ad consistent, that it always means ad ve'ad bichlal, until and including. We learned a very important rule tonight of tadir v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. Critical rule that comes up a lot. Everyone say it. Tadir v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. Beautiful. We learned a concept about the overlap between mincha and musaf. We learned about how really once you enter mincha time, you should pray mincha time. Although we did learn that there were some exceptions. And then we learned about Masechet Eduyot, and we learned five rules of Masechet Eduyot and about Masechet Eduyot more broadly. That this is a Masechet about testimonies of different laws, and we're going to learn the context of Masechet Eduyot coming up on the next stuff. We're going to learn more about it. What happened on that day when they opened up the doors? Why did they open up the doors? All of this testimony. Who were the people coming in? We're going to speak about that Be'ezrat Hashem coming up. Very exciting upcoming Gemarot. Be'ezrat Hashem. Just a few things I have to say. Baruch Hashem a million times. Next week, Tuesday night, there's a wedding, so I'm not available. The following week, Tuesday night, there's a wedding, so I'm not available. The following week, Tuesday night, I'm out of town, so I'm not available. Which means we're talking about we'll see each other in 3. No, we'll see each other in 3 weeks. Not in 3 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Yeah, ad bichlal or ad below ad bichlal, until 3 weeks, including we should before them. No, see you the last week, maybe in September. Actually, I may not be here the following week either. No, I will be. Maybe we could do another day of the week.
What about Zoom?
Okay, so let's be in touch if we could do a makeup class on another night of the week. Okay, Azak Baruch everyone. Azak Baruch.